The Hurricane Center now highlighting an area in the Southwest Caribbean for tropical development this week, but that might not be the only area that develops. Your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi friends, Rusty back here at Meteo Mundo. We're your home for Caribbean weather, and it's great to see you on a midday Sunday. I hope you're doing well. Important video coming up. We have been discussing for the last week here on the channel the potential for tropical development this week ahead in the Caribbean, and you can now see that yellow area from the National Hurricane Center. So we're going to deep dive into that. We have some impactful weather that's going to be happening today across our area, but also for the week ahead outside of the potential tropical development zones, and we'll highlight those areas as well. As always, I'd love to hear from you guys. Thanks for joining me on a weekend. Let me know in the comments section below where you're viewing from, what the weather has been like. Of course, you have a specific question about the forecast, feel free to drop it there in the comments section below as well. Let's take a look at the broad picture, our surface analysis. 3 tropical waves currently impacting the Caribbean. One is just beginning to move west of the Lesser Antilles, and although we'll still have some breezy conditions for the Lesser Antilles, overall rain chances will be coming down in the short term. This tropical wave in between the two will bring very strong winds again to the ABC Islands. This is also going to kick up the showers and storms here in the Southwest Caribbean, and then more active weather for portions of Central America and the Yucatan for today. Notice that we also have this stalled boundary, which is well south, even in late October, than what we normally see it. And that is allowing some winds to kick up here. And between this feature and an area of high pressure in the eastern Gulf of Mexico, we are going to get gale conditions beginning tomorrow for all of the Bahamas and the Turks, the Caicos. A lot of wind energy across our entire area, and I'll have more on that coming up as well. What do you say we get started? First thing we'll talk about here is just real quickly again, this is the same area that I've been highlighting for about a week. The Hurricane Center has now put a 30% chance of development over the next 7 days. And we're going to deep dive into this, obviously, coming up later in the video. In the short term, again, regardless of tropical development, this is forming on the eastern side of our Central American gyre, which is, again, inherent spin this time of the year over Central America and the Yucatan in association with the monsoonal trough. And that just means a lot of rain is going to continue to develop. And you can clearly see that right now. I'm just going to take one quick second and drop off this yellow area so you can just see the enhanced satellite imagery a little bit clearer. But showers and storms will be breaking out. They'll be numerous in nature again for today. Panama on over towards Costa Rica. San Jose has already had a 32-mile-an-hour wind gust fairly early on this Sunday. And these showers will lift north and drift inland as well. So the Caribbean coastlines of Nicaragua and Honduras, and even up toward the northern coast lines, again, San Pedro Sula, Roatan, Guanaja, and then on over towards Guatemala and portions of the Belize, we'll see some fairly wet weather. It will be, fairly scattered to see some heavier rain. It's more cloud coverage and some light rain in Belize City right now, but you can see there's some instability in the atmosphere. We already have some lightning strikes and some storms developing here. If I zoom back in towards the Guanaja area, again, just towards the east of there, but some of that's going to try and drift in. So another wet, stormy day. This is just going to be an active pattern here for most of the week ahead. And this will try and build into places like Tulum and Cancun and Cozumel as well. But we'll talk about how the development of this region will ultimately impact the rain chances, especially farther up to the north. We've had some active weather in Jamaica as well, and we're still getting some showers and storms developing. They're isolated in nature on this early Sunday, but we've had that. And again, I've mentioned this, that with this tropical moisture that's richer and deeper in play, the opportunity to not just have afternoon storms, they'll be more prolific then, but even some evening and overnight and morning showers and storms as well. And again, we've had that activity through portions of the islands for today. We've had some heavy rainfall as well. That has led to some flooding. So please keep that in mind, my friends in Jamaica. The heavier rainfall, watch out for some flash flooding. Never travel over roads that appear flooded. We say turn around, don't drown, but just be very cautious here. And again, a few storms even developing off of the western peninsula of Haiti. We're going to get some showers and storms developing over the Cayman Islands as well. They'll be a little bit more isolated for today. I do want to swing back over to the ABC Islands because you already saw that Aruba has picked up a 36-mile-an-hour wind gust. The winds are going to be howling across the ABC Islands. There's not going to be a lot of rain for today, but the opportunity to have some 35 and 40-mile-an-hour winds. This is our our visible satellite imagery. This is the high resolution visible satellite imagery here. And you can just see how fast these clouds are whipping across the islands. These are going to be mainly winds that are out of the due east. You can see that here from the METAR site on Aruba. They had an east wind there again that picked up to 36 miles an hour. We'll also have easterly winds across the Lesser Antilles for today as well. This is going to pull in the opportunity for a few showers and storms. Nothing is going to be extremely concentrated, fast moving as well. That might limit the opportunity for flooding. I can't rule out a couple of areas of some heavier rainfall, but from Trinidad, Tobago, Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Barbados, St. Lucia, Martinique, Dominica, and then up towards Guadeloupe. These are the areas with the best chance for quick passing showers. The rainfall is going to be even a little bit more limited today for Anguilla, St. Martin, St. Bart, Saba, St. Eustatius, St. Kitts and Nevis, Montserrat, Antigua, and Barbuda. I can't rule out some passing showers. You can already see some cloud coverage building, but the opportunity is going to be fairly limited for today as well. Just watch out for some higher surf and sea conditions from time to time, and it's going to be a relatively tranquil day across the U.S. and British Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. Sure, we are going to get some showers and storms to develop in the afternoon hours. Again, Ponce has already had about a 15-mile-an-hour wind. Nothing outrageous as of yet. And again, there's that boundary just up to the north, and you can clearly see that the clouds are actually moving in two different directions here on the visible satellite imagery. So the little bit closer that we get to that feature, the opportunity for more showers and storms. And guess what that means? Portions of the Dominican Republic and Haiti and the Turks, the Caicos, and the Southeast Bahamas will fall under that category. There's just more instability here, guys. There's just more lift in the atmosphere. The opportunity to not only promote some showers, but some thunderstorm activity as well. So this will get more concentrated in the afternoon for the Dominican Republic and Haiti. Turks and Caicos will come into play, portions of Cuba as well. Now you get just a little bit farther north of there, and the air is still a little bit drier. Not crazy dry, but a little bit drier here. And the big story for the Bahamas and the Turks and the Caicos over the next several days, and by the way, you see that 84, you can ignore that. That's an erroneous report there out of Florida. What we're going to see here is some tremendous winds, okay? We're going to have gale conditions developing across all of the islands starting tomorrow. So the first thing I want to do here real quickly is I want to talk about these winds and then show you how this is going to impact these areas. So let me bring up actually these wind gusts here and then just bring this out over the next week. The thing about this is, and just to be clear, the gale watch will go into effect starting tomorrow, but might last the entire week. They're talking about gale conditions possible through Friday. So boaters need to be very aware of this. This would also lead to some localized flooding with some high tide cycles because these winds are going to be howling, okay? You can just clearly see, I've let the model load all the way through Friday morning, all right? And do you see all this green and yellow? These are gusts, but they're not going away. They're going to be building and then staying in the 25 to 30 knot range most of the week. So if I just pick a time period here, what do you say I go out until like, we'll go out to like, let's do, I don't know. This is fairly late morning. Okay, let's go back here. I want to get into the afternoon hours of Wednesday, just kind of right in the middle of the week, right? So take a look at these winds. These are gusts for Walker's Key and Freeport and Abaco and Bimini and Andros and Nassau and Eleuthera. By the way, watch out for some water coming over some of the coastal roads. Eleuthera was mentioned by the Bahamas Department of Meteorology to keep an eye out for that. San Salvador, Rum Key, Long Island, Exuma, the Acklins, Mayaguana, the Turks, the Caicos, and Agua Islands. You get the idea, right? 30-mile-an-hour gusts basically the entire week, and even some fresher winds than that. This is going to be a big wind event for the Bahamas and the Turks and the Caicos for the week ahead. This is what it's going to do to the waves. I've snapshotted this on Wednesday afternoon. The yellows that you see are wave heights in double digits. The winds will be coming out of the east to northeast. On the eastern side of the islands, we're going to get some swells to the double digits. This is going to be an extreme event for the Bahamas and the Turks and the Caicos. So boaters, please keep this in mind. It'll be a little bit better in sheltered locations and on the western sides of the island. But the Bahamas Department of Meteorology has issued a very long statement in regards to this. So let me kind of break this down for you guys. The gale watch starts Monday everywhere but the Northwest Bahamas. The Northwest Bahamas will fall under a gale watch starting Tuesday, but I think the Northwest Bahamas could get some gale conditions even on Monday as well, okay? That's for sustained winds averaging 25 to 30 knots sustained with higher gusts. And again, this could last all the way through Friday. Seas start off at 5 to 8 feet, but they build to 10 to 15 by Thursday. So boaters are urged to return to port on Monday and stay in port at least until Friday. Again, that's official messaging from the Bahamas Department of Meteorology. This is going to be a big wind, wave event, and some isolated flooding to go along with this. Keep a very close eye on it, but my friends in the Bahamas, get prepared for a lot of wind through the week ahead. Okay. Now we're going to get into the tropics, and we're going to be talking about potentially not just one, but two areas that could ultimately develop, easy for me to say, in our area for the week ahead. We're going to start off obviously with this one here because we've been watching it for what seems like the last week or so. Again, 30% chance of development from the National Hurricane Center. It's still going to take its time to develop. It's not going to be rapidly developing, but by mid to late week, we could get a low-level center. Regardless of development, again, widespread heavy rain for portions of Central America that will likely spread north into the Cayman Islands, Jamaica, potentially Cuba, maybe Haiti, and the Dominican Republic. If it goes a little bit farther west, that could spread some of the heavier rain further north into Central America and portions of the Yucatan Peninsula as well. So let's get into it. First thing we're going to do, we're going to look at all the different models I've got for you guys. I'm going to bring up the GFS deterministic. If you have been following the channel, following these videos, again, we take a very measured approach here, but this was an area that I've been watching for about a week, and the Hurricane Center has now issued their, outlook, and they say that there is the potential for development here. I'm going to take that off just so we can clearly see what the latest run of the GFS model is bringing. Again, it's still a relatively sloppy system through Friday, but then quickly evolves into next weekend. And the latest run of the GFS deterministic does have a hurricane developing south of Jamaica by next Sunday. Now again, I don't want to be talking about specific locations and intensities a lot because we don't have an area that's even developed yet. We don't have an invest, so we don't have the tropical models running. We're still talking more about trends than anything else, right? But again, now we continue to see the GFS evolve a storm south of Jamaica over the weekend. And so we really start to need to be paying attention to this, okay? That's the messaging I want to get out. We don't want to focus too much on intensity or track yet, but this area needs to start paying closer attention now that we have that area from the Hurricane Center, and the models now for more than a week have been showing signs of development here, okay? So this is early next Sunday morning. I've basically taken this out a week, all right? I'm going to extend it just so you guys can get an idea. I don't want to go too much farther, but I'm going to take this out until Monday. Let's do that. Basically just another 24 hours, okay? We're going to generally see this drift north or potentially even slightly north and east, okay? That's what the Hurricane Center is discussing. This is what I'm seeing on the models as well. It doesn't mean down the road this could take a westerly turn, but I think initially it's drifting north to kind of a north-northeast track, all right? And you can clearly see that the GFS is more aggressive in the development, right? A stronger storm earlier in time. It's still slow progress, right? It's still slow progress, but it becomes a more intense storm before it reaches places like Jamaica and the Cayman Islands and Cuba and Haiti and the Dominican Republic. We're going to talk about this coming up as well, because this could actually be a second area of tropical development by the 9-10 day time frame. If we look at the winds associated with this right now, and I loop that up, again, first things first, just a ton of wind energy across this area. This model is going to pick up in just a second. Look at all of these purples and pinks and whites. Just a tremendous amount of wind across our area. And I mean, even the Leeward Islands and Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands will get it on that as well. Then we have to watch out for what tries to wrap up here in the Southwest Caribbean. Again, for informational purposes only, right? This is, This is the GFS model. This is one of the two main global models. If I query these winds, you are looking at hurricane conditions here, wherever this goes. I don't want to say this is headed to Jamaica or even closer to Jamaica as of yet, but we have to start, again, looking at these trends and paying attention. But these are sustained winds, by the way, in the GFS model. These aren't gusts. All right, so if we go back into time, right, this is going to be, again, the 31st is Thursday, so we start to see it kind of wrap up Friday into early Saturday, but then it kind of quickly gets going after that into about the 7-8 day time frame, right? Very little wind shear here, high sea surface temperatures, a lot of lift in the atmosphere, the inherent spin on the eastern side of the Central American gyre, okay? So that's what the GFS is promoting. And again, the messaging I want to get out is, let's just pay attention to this, all right? We'll see what the trends of the models bring over the week ahead. I want to go back over to the reflectivity and talk about area number 2, all right? We have a very broad area of lift in the atmosphere here, just north of the Lesser Antilles, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, the Dominican Republic. And with that area, we could potentially get a secondary system to try and form. You can see it also trying to try and wrap up beginning next weekend as well. So while we're watching this system, we could have area number 2 try and also develop as well. We'll look at the potential tracks on the ensemble members coming up beyond this time frame, but just to kind of give you a clear idea again of what the GFS model is bringing, we're back over to our sustained winds. It'll take just 1 second for it to pop back on. So here again, through midweek, a lot of straight east to northeast winds, but eventually underneath this and south of that stationary boundary, you start to see that spin begin to develop here, okay? And by the end of this, okay, as we get into, let's see, this would be early next Monday morning, you start to see a tropical storm developing here. Now, there's going to be bigger questions even compared to this one, which looks to be, again, taking a general north or north-northeast drift where this one goes, whether it's headed west to the Bahamas or Turks and Caicos, or whether it starts to take that bend back north into the east, okay? But clearly here on the GFS, and remember the European model was even more aggressive on this area yesterday, and the GFS had nothing. Well, now it's flipped over to the European model and showing a secondary system here, all right? Before we get into the ensembles, if you've gotten anything out of this video, I just really appreciate if you guys take a quick second and like this video. If you haven't subscribed to Meteo Mundo and you want these tropical updates or daily forecasts across the Caribbean and the Bahamas, you found your home. Thank you for subscribing. We are growing and we need to continue to grow. We are trying to push as fast as we can to 50,000 subscribers and beyond. And you guys liking and subscribing obviously get us there. It helps make the channel more visible. Thank you for sharing this with your family and friends. Thank you for finding ways to support the channel as well. It really means a lot. Our memberships, that's the join button, just 99 cents a month. These super thanks, you can donate whatever amount you'd want to. You can also find links to the PayPal and the Venmo in the description below. And we appreciate all of the support across the channel. Again, we need to continue to grow to provide you guys these daily updates, and we appreciate the support. So let's take a snapshot look at the GFS model next Sunday, so a week in time. And you can clearly see on these ensemble members 2 distinct areas. The developing storm here in the Southwest Caribbean and the secondary storm north of Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. You can see that some of the ensembles are far east towards the northern side of Leeward Islands. Others are closer to the Turks and Caicos and the southeast Bahamas. But that's a snapshot because I wanted you guys to see the 2 distinct areas. This is the looping run of it right now. So we'll start off in time. Again, we're quiet early in the week, sans the very strong winds in this area. Beginning, I think the earliest on Thursday the 31st, we start to see development here, but more than likely not until Friday or Saturday based on the model timing. And then we start to see this area lift up to the north, and we also see this area begin to develop at the same time frame. So next weekend is going to really tell the story here for these 2 areas. I've stopped this early on Monday, and we clearly have, again, this cluster here in the Western Caribbean. Notice that one of the models on the ensembles keeps it closer to the Central American coastline. This would bring more impacts to Nicaragua and Honduras, and potentially up the road, Guatemala and the Yucatan Peninsula as well. But obviously this track north-northeast would bring more impacts to Jamaica and Haiti and eastern Cuba, potentially the Cayman Islands, the Dominican Republic, and if they were to continue to track to the north, obviously in the Turks, the Caicos, and the Bahamas could be more impacted. On the GFS for area number 2, if you will, we have some of the ensembles into the Bahamas and the Turks of the Caicos by next Monday, but we also have a couple of the others beginning that curve north-northeast. I don't think there's a lot to really hang your hat on right now where this is going. I think it's a little bit clearer what's happening in the Caribbean right now with a general northward drift. This one I think is still up in the air and something to keep an eye on. European model, same thing. The ensemble members of the European model, same time frame. Again, you'll start to see earlier, not earlier, but early Friday into Saturday, the development here, the secondary area here as we get into early next week. Now, the European model is still about a day behind compared to the GFS. So I've taken it out until early on Tuesday, but you can clearly see the cluster here, right? Still got one in the Northwest Caribbean, a little bit more cluster closer to Jamaica. Again, slightly slower development on the European model, which typically happens. The European just is a little bit slower in the initial phases and then generally speaking picks up some speed in development and gets closer to the GFS once we actually have an area developing here, okay? Then on the European model here, you've got a few, again, clustered close to the Turks and Caicos and the Southeast Bahamas, slightly farther north, and then a couple that have already begun the recurve, all right? Again, I don't think there's a lot right now to really say, hey, look, this is pointed in that direction. Just overall, that north of the Greater Antilles, there is the opportunity for some development as we get into next weekend as well. So for the Caribbean disturbance, again, the messaging I want to get out is if you live in these areas, just pay attention. If you're watching this video, you're doing that, and that's fantastic. And appreciate you guys and invite you to join me throughout the week as I cover the disturbances and of course the forecast as well. But for Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, Cuba, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, and portions of Central America, just pay attention to how this disturbance is going to evolve. We'll get more into specific messaging down the road as we get a little bit greater detail. As far as the overall wave heights and directions, again, extremely strong winds in this area early in the week, and then whatever this is going to do is obviously going to kick up the surf and sea conditions as well. It's actually going to be a little bit better in the Lesser Antilles the next few days. Gulf of Mexico will have some fresh winds. It'll be all right in the Western Caribbean to start, but then obviously things will kick up. And as I've mentioned, in between some very strong winds for places like the ABC Islands. Rainfall totals. Regardless of development, we are still going to have some prolific rain through portions of Central America. You can clearly see that. Then it will be all about the tracks of these potential disturbances, right? So the European model, deterministic, does have this kind of lifting north. So you get the maximum rain in southern Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and Panama with our disturbance. You have secondary areas of heavy rain for portions of coastal Belize, Guatemala, and the northern sides of Honduras, though not as much as farther south. Then you have some heavier rain trying to get back into the Cayman Islands and eventually Jamaica by the end of the week. And there's your swath with the next potential disturbance. Again, kind of skirting, almost like what ended up becoming Oscar, skirting the northern side of the Leeward Islands, the U.S. and British Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, and getting closer to the DR and Haiti and the Turks of the Caicos by next weekend. Let's get over to the GFS chance for rain or the rainfall totals. Again, let me just drop off this real quick as well. Again, on the GFS, and this is just 5 days out through Thursday night, there's your ball of very heavy rain. This is going to be very slow to move over the next 3 to 4 days, which is why there'll be exceptionally heavy rain here. The big question will be, can it kind of drift south and bring heavy rain inland from San Jose all the way to Panama City? And I think in a lot of spots it's likely. We'll see some heavier rain for coastal Nicaragua and Honduras. And again, this secondary maximum, does this spin back inland? Looks like Roatan and Guanaja have a better chance for some of the heavier showers, but I can't rule out some pockets of heavy rain here in Guatemala, on up towards Belize, and even up the coastline of Quintana Roo as well, from Chetumal to Tulum, Cancun, and Cozumel. As a matter of fact, the GFS model really paints on some heavy rain right along the immediate coast. Back over to the Cayman Islands, again, another area that could potentially see some heavy rain. Look, guys, there is going to be an abundant amount of tropical moisture in the central and western Caribbean over the next week. It might be hard to pinpoint where the heaviest rain falls, sans where this is developing, but you should anticipate the opportunity for some excessive rainfall in all of these areas that I've mentioned, and Jamaica would be included in this as well. Again, you know, the GFS has like 4 or 5 inches on the northeast coastline, but that doesn't mean some of that could be more inland as well. We could get, and again, it's an easy conversion, inches to millimeters, 25 millimeters for 1 inch. So we're talking about 4 inches of rain. You're talking about 100 millimeters. Heavier rain again for portions of the Dominican Republic. Still could see some heavier rain across portions of Haiti as well. And there is, again, the GFS model's just north with the heaviest rain, but we can't rule out some of this sneaking in. Look at Anguilla here, right? 5 inches here. I don't think we're going to get 1 inch to 2 inches in Barbuda and only have 5 to 6 in Anguilla. We'll probably average it out, but we might be skirting the northern islands here for the opportunity for some of the heaviest rain. I think farther south we go in the Lesser Antilles, quieter weather outside of some wind. You can see that, not as much rain there. Trinidad, Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao, more about the winds than the rain. And the same thing for the Bahamas, right? It's all about the wind energy rather than the rainfall right now. But some exceptional rain could fall in these areas in the next 5 to 7 days. Friends, I appreciate you guys joining me on a Sunday. I appreciate you guys following us across all of our social media. We're on Instagram, TikTok, where we do some exclusive content. You can find us on X, Facebook. You want to send me a picture or video, and I appreciate those. It's mymeteomundo@gmail.com. Again, while you're down there, thank you for liking and subscribing to the channel. If you have a specific question about the forecast, drop it in the comments section below. Friends, have a great rest of your Sunday. I'm back tomorrow with all the newest information that you need to know. Have a great one. I'll see you soon right here at Meteo Mundo.